Howdy, y'all, and welcome to Liberty Libations number 57. Tonight I've got Zach Varnell, Zane Placie, and a new guy named Liam. Liam, introduce yourself. Who are you? What are you doing here?
Hi, I'm Liam. I am Zane's friend. We went to UGA together, and at different points, we both sat over the presidency of UGA's Young Americans for Liberty chapter.
All right. Well, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Glad you could get out of working at Chick-fil-A this evening.
The Lord's chicken had to end early tonight. Yeah.
There we go. All right. Well, y'all, we are streaming on 8 different destinations. We're streaming on Instagram, Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Multiple accounts on each. I've gotten it to where I can see all comments from all different platforms. So, yeah, if you have stuff to say, go ahead and say it whenever you want. All right. Per usual, we're going to start out talking about LP Georgia. On January 26th, just before our convention, there's going to be a range day with former vice presidential nominee Spike Cohen down at the South River Gun Club. I think Grumpy Gnomes says there are 2 tickets left. Chase Oliver just signed up for it, one of the presidential candidates this year. So yeah, if you want to go shoot some guns with Bazooka Jew, go ahead and go get your tickets on LP Georgia's website. Also, while you're there, you might as well get your tickets for convention, which is the 26th through the 28th, just outside of Covington in Conyers, Georgia, at the VFW down there. Tickets are $85. We've got Spike Cohen speaking. We've got Shane Hazel, Adam Nutter. We've got the Tower Gang pod, and we've got a presidential debate. I don't know why we'd have a vice presidential debate, but we have a president. Who would want that? So yeah, go get your tickets. lpgeorgia.com. I believe we have a hotel down there, so you can book a room on the block of rooms if there are any left. Yeah, that is what we're saying. Nano Future, go on all platforms and spam comments to mess with Jake. That's perfect. That won't piss me off ever. All right, y'all. We have breaking news. This was shared with us by our very own Nick Ciesieslki, who is not on the stream tonight. Let me pull it up. It looks as though the UK and the United States is bombing Yemen, Iranian-backed Houthi rebels in Yemen.
You can make anything scarier by calling it Iranian-backed.
There we go. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. That's how they did it in the latest Top Gun. So why would they stop doing it now? You know,
Iranian-backed goat herders.
Perfect.
And just to get you prepared for the next one, like when we directly bomb Iran or something like that, we'll be like, oh yeah, they've been the bad guys forever now, so that's fine.
Exactly. Let's see. According to Politico, the United States and UK had the support of Australia, Bahrain, Canada, and the Netherlands. The strikes targeted various military facilities being used by the Houthis. The strikes were carried out by U.S. and British aircraft and Tomahawk land attack missiles launched by U.S. naval ships in the Red Sea. There are also reports that the Houthis have responded, reportedly firing at targets in the Red Sea, which I have. Let's see. Where was it? Yeah, it looks like they may have hit one of our battleships or one of our ships that's out there. So they are retaliating. I don't know. I guarantee you this is news to a lot of people that we're bombing Yemen. Not enough people have heard about us being at war with Yemen or helping the Saudis with their war against Yemen. So, Zane, you want to talk about the background of what's going on here?
Yeah. So it's hardly even matters to me what exactly the specifics of the day-to-day bombing is, because I'm sure that half the stuff coming out about this is just lies from our own military. So
right.
what really matters is, why we're involved in this in the first place and what we can expect out of it. So people who even know that we're in Yemen at all doing anything, which is really not hardly anybody, but even people who know that we're there will not be familiar with the history of why, which is, all the way back in like 2014, 2015, Yemen had an election. So for all this talk about protecting democracy, they actually managed to have an election and they elected some guy. And Saudi Arabia was like, no, we don't like that guy. We want him out of there. And this was around the same time that, the Obama administration was trying to make the nuclear deal with Iran. And Saudi Arabia was very unhappy that the U.S. was trying to make this deal. So, and there are many sources that say that this exact phrase was used. The U.S. entered the war in Yemen on the side of Saudi Arabia in order to, and this is a direct quote, placate the Saudis.
Mm-hmm.
So we're committing, mass murder and genocide against people in Yemen to placate the Saudis, because it really is mass murder and genocide. It's not just that we're targeting terrorists here. It's that we're systematically targeting all their infrastructure, all their water facilities. I was trying to make this point last week in response to one of our more rowdy commenters, but it was the end of the episode, and I had already consumed one entire beverage, so I'm not sure I was up to the task. But it again, when we first introduced the story, and I said that you can make anything scarier by calling them Iranian backed. I'm sure that that's true, in that Iran is going to do what they think is easy to needle Saudi Arabia because they don't like them. But ultimately, we're not talking about really well-organized, really malevolent terrorists. We're talking about people that have had their family members killed, that have had their friends in their community killed by drone strikes that are, no matter how many times the U.S. military are telling you they're carrying out targeted strikes, they're not. They're targeting civilians. They're targeting, civilian infrastructure. And when you do that, it's your classic case of insurgent mass. If you have 10 terrorists and you kill 5 of them, how many are left? 20.
I've heard of girl math and boy math. Now insurgent math.
These are not people that bear the United States or our citizens any ill will. These are people that desperately want to stop being bombed and are desperately poor because they've endured a decade of being bombed. In the Obama administration, when we first started doing this, there were internal memos between people in the Department of Defense who were legitimately worrying about the fact that the actions that were being carried out meant that they could be credibly convicted of war crimes. And it's very rare when you see people in the administration actually being worried about being convicted of war crimes because of the amount that our system bends over backwards to protect war criminals. After the Iraq War, Bush and friends had no accountability at all for everything they did in Iraq because Obama was like, we need to look forward, not backward. So we're just going to overlook all the war crimes we did in Iraq. So even with that being the posture of the U.S.
Every crime happened in the past. It's like, you murdered somebody last year. Yeah, but we're looking forward. I mean, that happened all the way back then.
Even with that being the posture of the American foreign policy and military establishment, even in that climate, people were still worried about our conduct in Yemen being worthy of them being charged with war crimes. And that's all you need to know that it's extremely serious and terrible.
Yes.
What would you say, though? Because, it seems like maybe people could argue the Saudi campaign bombing Yemen was one thing, but now we've been in a ceasefire and they were launching rockets at ships. So this is a new thing and we have to go in there and, protect them. And then also, I think you said that they just want to live, but Why would they be launching rockets at ships during a ceasefire? Like, what's going on there? Are they doing that to defend Gaza, or like what do we know?
So I haven't been able to do a deep dive into like this latest thing, and obviously I am against people launching rockets at ships that are peacefully carrying out commerce. Of course, again, I'm not sure that I trust a lot of what's coming out, and I would not be surprised if a couple months later we would find actually, something was done to break the ceasefire before they were doing this, or it's not exactly as it's being reported. If it were actually the case that we were perfectly targeting everybody who was just targeting peaceful ships and it was completely unprovoked, then yes, by libertarian theory, that would be a justified use of retaliation. I am just highly skeptical that that's actually what's going on.
Yeah, I can guarantee you it's not. And then, during the whole Saudi campaign, we had like a blockade against them too. So people may have been there that legitimately deserved whatever they had coming, but blockading an entire country was causing, food not to get in, medicine not to get in, and, babies were dying of dysentery for something that they don't even understand, much less were involved with.
Right.
So it does always seem that even if there's like a kernel of truth in the reason for war, the overreaction is an entire another thing where it's like, all right, even if you were in the right originally, you no longer are.
Yeah, and just keep in mind this is all like breaking news. So we don't know a ton of information right now. Nick Ciesieslki, who's normally on this show, he sent us about 15 links right in a row because he's amazing at compiling all the information and getting all the tweets and stuff. So we don't really know everything. Suhas has a comment. Says Iran's government is a criminal enterprise. I agree with the neocons. So is the U.S. government. Thanks for that, Suhas.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, man.
It's like we're just not a fan of any of them. They're all government or criminal enterprises. Some worse than others, though. But.
Yeah. Liam, what are your thoughts? Or just give us your perspective on what's going on in the Middle East right now.
Well, it should be all fine and good so long as the bombs say "Build Back Better" on them, right?
Perfect.
As long as
most diverse bombs
we're sending the right, and they're painted like rainbows, then they shouldn't do any damage, right? But yeah, I mean, I big surprise. I'm a libertarian, right along with Zane, and it really does suck that, as y'all alluded to before, that this is not part of the mainstream news. You really have to go digging for it. And it really points to the fact that there's a lot that people kind of want to hide. There's a lot that, the U.S. doesn't want you to know about. They want you to focus on so many other things. I was listening to a previous episode, and you were talking about the release of some of the Epstein documents and how, they come out and they're all boring. And it's like, yeah, they're gonna release the boring ones because they're not gonna give you the good juicy ones. And I think that's the
real good stuff they probably just didn't write down.
Exactly.
Probably. Right. And yeah, and I think that people are relying on the fact that the general public has such a lack of knowledge on kind of Middle Eastern affairs that it's Yemen. I can't even point out Yemen on a map. So and that really and no, it applies to a lot of people. And so it's so much harder to care about that as the general public, and that's what's really troubling, because Zane was saying, like, these are innocent people that are dying out there, and it really sucks to hear about it.
Yeah. I mean, what's even crazier is, like, even when it's like a war that's broadcasted, like the Iraq war or the Afghanistan war, people still don't care. So even if it's on TV with like theme music and like you see people dying, people still don't give a crap that we're just over there killing innocent people.
No, but it's big, beautiful bombs.
And I think it's like it's not traditional war anymore. Like it's, you know, just that video that you saw. If there's no description on that video that you just showed, nobody would be able to tell what that is, right? So it's this is not traditional, you know, like the stereotypical, you know, civil war, just like a line of troops, two lines of troops marching at each other. Like, you know, it's dumb, but it's also like easy for the brain to comprehend and understand. Whereas now, you know, you have so many different things you're dealing with. You have governments, you have rebel groups, you have just regular innocent people who are just trying to live their lives. And obviously it's really hard to determine exactly who each of those people are in any given location. And so it doesn't come as any surprise to see that, you know, they don't try that hard and they just drop the bombs.
Yeah. I mean, what's the statistic? It's like 92% of people killed by drones are innocent civilians, I think is what the statistic is.
Wow.
I think it's 8% actually hit their target. I mean, a lot of those probably hit their target and then tons of people, innocent people around them is probably how it generally goes. But like
when Israel just bombed the refugee camp, they're like, but we got a guy. Like, and you got 70 other guys who didn't do anything.
Yeah. And I just have a massive problem with drone bombing anybody in particular. Like I take a pretty unpopular stance, which is if you're going to go to war with somebody, you have to risk something. And if you're just flying around in the sky above them and bombing them and their civilians, you're not risking anything. It's just a bombing campaign that poses no risk upon you and just obliterates your opponent. And obliterates just a bunch of innocent people for the most part, obviously. So I am far more, not that anybody abides by the rules of war, but I would love if like drone bombing was banned from war. But that's just me.
I feel like we should call rebel groups, or most of them, wannabe governments. It's like, this is a war between the governments and the wannabe governments.
Interesting. I don't hate it.
Well, the funny thing about the Houthis in this case is that they are the actual government. It's like everybody calls them the Houthi rebels, but they were for a long time, and I think currently, although don't quote me on this, I think that they are currently the ones in control of the capital and like in control of the entity that would be considered the Yemeni government. It's just that Saudi Arabia doesn't like them, and therefore the U.S. has to pretend to not like them either.
Yeah.
And so we call them Iran-backed rebels.
Oh, so it's a Taiwan Chinese Taipei situation.
Oh, interesting. That could be. Grumpy says people always cheer for the rebels in the movies and fail to realize we are the empire. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Well, this actually goes really nicely into one of our topics for tonight, which is the fact that South Africa files a genocide case against Israel at the World Court. And this happened back in December, at the very end of December. It was 13 days ago. But yeah, I mean, exactly what the headline says is what happened. South Africa went to the World Court, filed to the International Court of Justice, and basically filed a genocide case against them under the 1948 Genocide Convention. And Israel's crackdown against the Palestinian group Hamas in Gaza. Obviously, Israel rejected the filing. Shocker.
Who would have thought?
So surprising. Let's see. Palestine, whose state is contested but is seen by the court as having observer state status, said it welcomed South Africa's suit. The court must immediately take action to protect the Palestinian people and call on Israel, the occupying power, to halt its onslaught. Palestinian Foreign Ministry said in a statement. Yeah. What are y'all's thoughts on this? I mean, first of all, it's South Africa. That seems like an odd country to be stepping in the middle of this, considering they're
This
part of
seems
BRICS.
like one of those things where, like, the San Francisco City Council calling for a ceasefire. I'm like, oh, good. Yeah, I'm glad you did. Not going to make any difference.
Right.
And a lot of times I'm not familiar with the World Court, but sometimes they'll be like, so-and-so condemns the U.S. in the World Court. And they're just like, well, we're not actually a part of the World Court, so we don't care.
Right.
So I'd be curious if Israel is like even signed on to this. It kind of sounds like they were if they rejected it. But
Yeah, it's like,
I mean, even if this went through, what power do they have? Are they going to go there and, actually do anything? They don't have, I don't think you could, even if you wanted to, but
it's one of those things where it's only a gesture. The only way that anything would ever actually come out of this was if enough of the power players decided that they were going to make a big deal out of it. And so far, that's not happening. So,
right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it does seem just like a publicity stunt.
The World Court is essentially the equivalent of like student government in middle school, where it has as much power as the actually powerful entity is allowed to have.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it does seem like a publicity stunt of some sort, just to kind of get some street cred as to who you're backing and like just kind of putting it out there, almost like a virtue signal. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I really don't know much about what the actual document said in full. I didn't read the whole thing, but like you said, like what is the World Court going to do? Like, what do they have the power to do? I don't think they have the power to really do anything.
Speaking of things that have no power, did you notice how in the article it quoted somebody who was apparently representing the Palestinian Foreign Ministry? And I was just shocked that Palestine has it together enough to have a foreign ministry. Is it like some guy on like a street corner that has a hat that says foreign minister? Like,
that is especially funny for
how do you have
the people,
well,
especially when you have a hard time leaving the country. Yeah.
Well,
you're not allowed to leave to go to the foreign places.
I was under the impression that from a UN perspective, all of Palestine's ministry is foreign because they don't have a country at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, I think I think so. That's a really funny statement, Zane, the Palestinian Foreign Ministry.
You see this pattern with some other countries too that are more widely recognized as being actual countries, but are still really poor. Like you'll find like Somalia or these other extremely poor African countries have all these different government ministries. Like they'll have like a ministry of youth or like a ministry of culture or like a ministry of sport. It's like if you're Somalia, I think you have bigger problems than having a ministry of sports. all these countries think that just by having a ministry of something, that means that they get that thing. Where in reality, they don't get the thing. They get a worthless bureaucrat that they have to pay and make everybody else even more poor than they already were.
Yeah,
it's like all these other countries that when they write their constitution will write into the constitution that everyone has a right to health care, even though they're so poor that nobody can afford toothpaste.
And I guarantee the Ministry of Sport is 500 pounds and never played a sport in their life.
Also, like here in the States, whenever there's a new department made, it means that whatever the department is supposed to be about is the end of whatever that department is supposed to be about. Like Department of Education, that was the end of education. Like no one's educated anymore. Department of food, drug, and whatever that FDA, Food and Drug Administration, that was the end of good food and real drugs. Like,
yeah, and they may have killed more people than any other government agency.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, it's wild. All right, y'all. Should we get into our primary story of the night? Because I'm pumped about it.
Let's do it.
All right. So on Tuesday night, there was a supposed hack of the SEC, at which point somebody tweeted that the SEC approved Bitcoin ETFs for all 11 people that applied. They quickly deleted it and took it down and pronounced that they've been hacked. Still not convinced that they were actually hacked. Some people think that it was a ploy to see what would happen if they did grant the ETF in the few minutes after. It'd be a strange time for the SEC to get hacked the night before they said they were going to approve the Bitcoin ETF. So I don't know. There's something weird about that. But in the end, at the end of business day, the ETF was granted. And today was the first day of trading on these ETFs. They've been multiple applications over the last 10 years. I think they've been applying since like 2013. And so, yeah, I mean, it's Zane, Liam, Zach, do y'all have any thoughts on the ETF itself? What an ETF is to those who don't know?
So an ETF is so like the traditional application is for like buying a lot of stocks. It's very similar to a mutual fund, yes, where if you want to buy all of the stocks that are in the S&P 500, so you're very well diversified, it would be pretty inconvenient and difficult for you to individually buy all 500 stocks and put them in your portfolio. But what you can have is an entity that pulls a bunch of people's money together and buys all of those stocks, and then you buy into that. So by buying the fund, you get a little slice of all of the stocks that are in that fund. What a Bitcoin ETF will do is that the ETF, the fund, will buy the Bitcoin, and then investors can buy into the fund, and that thus they indirectly own some of the Bitcoin that the fund has. And so this will be more secure than all of these, exchanges like, FTX, or even some of the ones that haven't gone bankrupt yet. Because if you're an ETF, you actually own like the Bitcoin that you're claiming that you own. Like the problem with FTX was you thought that you owned the Bitcoin, but you actually didn't, because they actually, from my understanding of what went down, they were taking your money and not actually buying Bitcoin with all of it.
Correct.
They were mainly not even dealing with Bitcoin. They were doing all sorts of shit coins that have no value to begin with.
Yeah.
But with these Bitcoin funds, all the Bitcoin that the fund has is like the fund actually has to own it. And correct. So it's that I would say that you're definitely still better served buying your own Bitcoin if you're inclined to do that, because it's still the most secure way, and you actually have control over all your own Bitcoin. Like I own Bitcoin, and I'm not really planning on buying a Bitcoin ETF because I'll just buy it directly myself. However, there is a certain segment of the population that's just not something that they would ever do to be technically capable enough to buy their own Bitcoin. It's just not possible for them for whatever reason. And the Bitcoin ETF is a much more secure way than going on, crypto.com of holding Bitcoin. The other advantage is that you can have it within your 401k easily. So, a lot of people have a company match through their 401k where their employer gives them money, but then their investment options within the 401k are somewhat limited. And it's not like you could just take it out and buy Bitcoin yourself, because that's not how 401ks work. But if there was a 401k ETF where kind of within the confines of market products, you could buy a Bitcoin fund, that would also give you the option of doing that.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a fantastic intermediate step between an exchange and actually owning your own Bitcoin. Because it will get a whole bunch of people involved in Bitcoin that never would have gotten involved any other way. It's definitely more easier to digest for the older generation if it's done this way than it is for you to try to explain to your dad to go get a cold wallet, go do that, go just step by step how to buy Bitcoin and get it into your into his account. So like this is a much more digestible way for people to semi own Bitcoin. I will just say, if you don't actually hold the keys, you don't actually own the Bitcoin. So like, while you may be a part of the fund, you don't own the Bitcoin, in my opinion. But yeah, far safer than a place like Coinbase or FTX or any of those places. Yeah, Liam, what do you think?
Now I have a question. If you have stake in a Bitcoin ETF, does that make it any less volatile than if you have a regular Bitcoin? No. Okay.
And it's going to be far more volatile for the next week or two, just because of all of what's happening. So it will continue to be super volatile for the next 2 weeks. I mean, it's going up and all the way down. Like it's jumping up and down like $1,000 at a time, repeatedly throughout the day. So it's pretty volatile at the moment. Yeah. What's up, Zane?
Oh, I didn't have anything.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
What would be your?
Go ahead, Liam.
What would be your reason to, like Zane mentioned, if you wanted to make this as a part of your 401k? Like, why would you do that? Because Bitcoin, I don't think has been around long enough to have the track record that like regular stocks have of, there's peaks and valleys, but over the course of however many years it goes up over time, but that hasn't been proven out really with Bitcoin yet. So just because of like the potential, I guess I would disagree with you on that. I think if you look at a long-term chart, it has done basically nothing but go up. And I think that once you apply the Austrian principles of economics to Bitcoin, you'll know that it's going to keep going up and it's going to keep getting more and more valuable because it over time, it actually ends up deflating rather than inflating. So there's a certain amount that can be printed forever. And then if someone happens to lose the keys to their crypto, that Bitcoin's gone forever. And so it's a deflationary type of money that I tend to use as a currency, and I definitely do not see it as like a stock. So all like between me and private buyers, sellers, whatever they're selling, whatever I want to buy, we'll exchange a certain number of Satoshis based on what we think is worth it. So it's I try not to exchange Bitcoin based on how much it says it's worth on these exchanges, because I think it's a fraction of what it will be worth in the next 10 to 20 years. So that's
And even if you did see it as a risky investment, like when you're young, go ahead and make risky investments because they're risky because the payoff may be huge or you may lose it all, which I don't think is the case either with Bitcoin. But, maybe you wouldn't want to buy and put a bunch of money into the Bitcoin ETF if you're like, 64 and looking to retire. But if you're young and, you're risk tolerant, even if you see it as risky, do it. And then the hack, I'm not buying that either. I think what some quack said is right. Somebody hit send instead of schedule.
Right.
It's like, if you think about it, if you hacked into like a government Twitter, like you could use it. Like, I'm going to build a botnet and spread malware, or I'm going to pump some like shit coin that, could go up dramatically and I'll make $1 million or whatever. But instead you're like, no, I'm just going to announce some news on Bitcoin and make a modest gain. So
one of the strangest things. Oh, go ahead, Zane.
Yeah. So just what Zach was saying earlier, So I like Bitcoin. I have some money in Bitcoin. I'm not one of these Bitcoin maxis that says that you should put all your money in Bitcoin. But if you're just
Maxis
coming
don't
at it
say
from
that. By the
Maxis
way,
don't say that. Maxis say don't buy any other type of coin. Don't put it's not put all your money in Bitcoin. It's don't buy any other coins.
I would actually agree with that. So sorry for using that term wrong.
yeah,
But I would not.
Those people are
put...
maxis with wings.
Anyway, my point is that if you just look at Bitcoin as just another asset that you might invest in, it has desirable properties. Like if like in the world before Bitcoin, people still talked about putting some of your money in alternative asset classes like real estate, like precious metal. Like I even have some money with a company called Masterworks where you can buy small slices of pieces of fine art. The idea being that all of these different alternative assets are very uncorrelated with the rest of the market. And so even if the rest of the market tanks, you can still kind of have some of your capital in something that's not also going to tank at the exact same time. And a lot of these assets have possibility for large returns as well. That's also not correlated with whether the market has a big return. So, like, obviously, I believe in the economic message of Bitcoin that it's not susceptible to being interfered with by government monetary policy. So, long term, I believe in it. But also, it's just, another good thing to have in your back pocket. So, I have a modest amount of my overall portfolio allocated into Bitcoin.
Yeah. Brian asked a great question, which is, but can you lay on a pile of Bitcoin and pretend to be a dragon like you can with gold? Sadly, no. I mean, I guess you could lay on your Bitcoin wallet and pretend to be one, but I don't think that's going to have the same feeling.
I want to know what small slices of art Zane owns. Like,
oh,
you know, the statue of David? I own his butt.
Yeah, do you pick the slice? That'd be
awesome.
I did. There were three. There are three pieces of artwork that I own a very small slice of. One of which is a Picasso.
What? How did this happen? How did is that actually a thing? People can do that?
It's a company called Masterworks. Where it's essentially an ETF, but for fine art, where you, I mean, it's not exactly like an ETF because you have to buy into each piece of artwork individually. It's not one fund that has lots of different artworks, but you can buy small slices of. So, like, I bought a small slice of 3 different artworks.
Cool. I think that's similar to something I saw the other day, which is you can invest in. Similar to an ETF, but with whiskey barrels, and like with the whiskey that's put in them. I want
to get in on that.
Yeah, it was very interesting. I think we should definitely do that as Liberty Libations. But what I was saying earlier is the most interesting thing about, or one of the most interesting things about the ETF being granted is that they pushed it off the website almost immediately. It was on their website for like less than an hour, the announcement. And you have to go to the Wayback Machine in order to actually see the document granting the ETF to these 11 companies. It's kind of wild. That never happens. Generally, they keep them on the website forever until they archive it like well into the future. So that was a really strange move. I don't really understand why they did this. But if you want to go read the document, I can post it somewhere. But yeah, that's the actual granting of the ETF, because it is a historic moment. It's never happened before. I mean, gold was granted an ETF, and it made a massive difference in the commodities market. Yeah, I mean, I know everybody who's obsessed with Bitcoin is intrigued by this ETF thing. I know Shane Hazel had a funny tweet yesterday, which was if Bitcoin is inevitable and the government destroys everything it touches, this is going to be an interesting battle, which I thought was pretty great. All right.
This is
Sounds
great
like
news
setup.
for money in general, I think.
Yeah.
Like especially from a liberty perspective, because like right around the middle of last year, didn't the EU on the other side of things, like they're trying to put limits on cash transactions and crypto transactions, right? I don't know the status of any of those, but I know like both of those things are at least being considered.
Well, dude, almost every major bank in the United States banned the purchasing of crypto with their accounts. So, like Chase, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, every single one banned the buying of Bitcoin. And so, I found that out this week because I have Capital One, and they decided to shut down a wire transfer when I was trying to wire it to Swan Bitcoin to buy some Bitcoin. And they shut it down, and I had to call, and it took forever to finally get them to push it through. And now I'm going to shut down my Capital One account and go with the Bitcoin friendly bank. So yeah, it's getting wild out there. And like Jamie Dimon, freaking JP Morgan's CEO, is still out there saying Bitcoin is stupid, even though he is JP Morgan is in on BlackRock's ETF for Bitcoin. Like that dude is just a crooked, two-faced loser. Like it's just a weird time right now.
It's a very interesting development because the main pitch of Bitcoin, at least for me, I know there are other people that don't see it quite this way, but it's a way of circumventing bad government monetary policy.
Yes.
So you would think that the government would do anything it could to not make it take off.
Well, they tried.
So the fact that they're approving these ETFs either means that they feel like this is a battle they can't win, or it's a somewhat hopeful reminder that not everybody who works in the government is a dyed-in-wool statist, and sometimes people do things just because they didn't really think about it.
I like that. I like that. That's a little white pill. I like that a lot because I mean they've been trying to get this thing granted since 2013, so it's been over 10 years since the first application for a Bitcoin ETF, and so. Yeah, I mean, you might be right. There might be somebody maybe got in power or got into the SEC that isn't as much of a turd as the rest of the people in the SEC. That's pretty great.
Jake, that may be a sign to switch to a credit union if you haven't already. Like I know that's a creation of government too, but I've used one forever, and it just feels like a very like small community bank. They don't have time to be like searching for Bitcoin transactions if they would even care or know what that is.
Yeah. My uncle's obsessed with crypto and Bitcoin, and he told me the exact same thing. But he also has told me some things in the past that I don't want to abide by. So, okay. Now that I have a second person, I might look into it. Anybody got anything else to chat about with Bitcoin? Questions, concerns, comments? All right. Well, there we go. Here we go. It's trivia time, y'all. Let's see. There we go. Gotta get the music going. All right. Half the night, I'm going to have my headphone halfway off because I have this dog staying at my house right now that yips. I mean, it's the most ear-piercing yip ever. And she just does it randomly. She has no idea what she's doing. She's a puppy. Where she is. You hear that?
You just got a little muffled, Jake.
That always happens once we go to trivia. Is that better?
Yeah, it's weird. Yep, better.
Okay.
I still could hear what you were saying. It just sounded weird.
All right. Well, I generally sound weird anyway, so whatever.
Yeah. So is that why you were taking your headphones off? Is that dog like hurting your ears?
No, I'm trying to. I don't want my neighbors to get pissed.
Okay. I thought I was like blowing out your ears when I was talking.
So. No. I have a little buzzer to buzz her when she starts yipping. And yeah, so that's what I was doing. All right, y'all. Libations trivia. The categories are this day in history, IDGAF ABT ETFs, And I've decided I'm just going to have the third round be random crap every week. So this week is seagulls. The rules: 10 questions in the first round, 5 in the second, 3 in the third, 1, 2, 3 points apiece, respectively. Every question is a free-for-all. In order to answer, you cover your camera. Got that, Liam? Just got
it.
Boom. If you blurt out an answer when it's not your turn, you lose a point. If a contestant answers, they cannot give another answer until all contestants have answered, and the winner is no longer a loser. All right. 2024 scoreboard updated. Zane with 1, everybody else with 0.
The best it's going to be.
Now that you've reset the scoreboard, I can no longer mention every week about how the audience victory is attributable to me.
You're darn right. Gosh, I'm so happy I reset the scoreboard. All right. First question. This day in history. On this day in 1935, who made the first solo flight from Hawaii to California? Zane.
Amelia Earhart.
You're correct. It is Amelia Earhart. And I hate that you got the first one correct. It's so frustrating. Liam, you got to be quicker, man.
I know.
Reach out
All
like
right.
you're going to smack Zane.
Yeah. Just punch Zane right through the camera. On this day in 1928, who was banished from the Soviet Union by Joseph Stalin? Liam.
Leon Trotsky.
Ho, Leon Trotsky. How about that? All right.
So all the Trotskyites just came here and became neocons.
Perfect. On this day in 1879, British troops invaded what kingdom that had ignored the British's demand to demilitarize?
What was the year?
1879. Okay, I'll give a hint. It is in Africa. Zane.
Like the Zulu kingdom.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
Zululand. Bravo, Zane. That is unbelievable. Unbelievable. All right, question number 4. On this day in 1908, Theodore Roosevelt made what landmark a national monument? Zach.
Crap. Denali?
Nope. Liam.
the Grand Canyon.
The Grand Canyon is
Nice.
correct. All right. Question number 5. On this day in 1973, the American League of the MLB adopts what new rule? Liam.
Designated hitter.
Designated hitter is correct. Bravo. Liam takes the lead. Question number 6. On this day in 1878 in New York City, what was delivered for the first time in glass bottles? Zane.
Milk.
Milk is correct.
But it's a good thing you finished the question because I was originally thinking electricity and then you said glass bottles. So I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense.
But you still chimed in before you finished the question, so I had to wait and fully process.
Because I thought that I knew.
Yeah, but you did.
Fair enough. All right. Question number 7. On this day in 1861, what became the 4th state to secede from the Union? Zach.
I don't know. Let's see. Let me just choose one. It's my only chance of beating Zane anyways, random chance. I suddenly can't think of any states. Not a single one. Fourth state to secede from the Union. I
You
don't
have
know,
five- you have
no matter
5 seconds.
Which one I choose is the dumbest one that you could have chosen.
3,
Let's go with
2.
freaking Arkansas.
Incorrect. Zane.
I'll go Texas.
Incorrect. Liam.
Georgia.
Incorrect. It's back open to the floor. Zach, if you want to take another 15 seconds. Zane.
Yeah.
Florida.
Nope. Zach.
Virginia.
No. Liam.
Tennessee.
No. Nope.
All right. Put us out of our misery.
All right. The answer is Alabama. Even the
Thought about saying that so many times.
even
thought about guessing
the
it.
audience didn't get it. So,
They were also ranked number 4 going into the playoff.
There we go. Yeah. Now that
Coincidence.
they ended up what? Ranked 6th, right? 6th, 5th, or something like that.
In the final AP poll, are you talking about?
Yeah, because somehow Georgia leapfrogged everybody to go up to 2nd because they beat a Florida State team that had nobody playing for them.
Yeah,
but
but it was
they
still-
could have put up 100 in that game.
It was the largest margin of victory in any bowl ever.
I'm aware, Zane. It doesn't matter if Florida State doesn't have a quarterback and doesn't play its starters. I
It was
don't.
a historical game. Of
I don't.
magnificent proportion.
I don't like that we have 2 Georgia people on this podcast right now. All right. Question number 8. On this day in 1964, Surgeon General Luther Terry made what announcement? Zach.
Smoking probably isn't great for you.
Correct. Perfect. All right. Question number 9. On this day in 1755, what future Treasury Secretary was born? Zane.
Alexander Hamilton.
Bravo. Yeah.
So me and my mom a couple of years ago went to see this musical, and then on our way home, I talked for like 20 minutes about why Alexander Hamilton's monetary policy was really bad.
I did the
I'm
same
sure
thing
my-
with my wife.
And I'm sure that my mom was not that interested in it.
Oh yeah, no, I did the exact same thing with my wife. It was a decent musical though. It wasn't bad. I've liked others better though. All right. On this day in 2002, the first prisoners arrived in what facility? Zane.
Guantanamo Bay.
Guantanamo Bay is correct. All right. At the end of round 1, Zane has 5, Liam has 3, Zach has 1. It's still anybody's game. All right. IDGAF about ETFs.
So is this category about ETFs or about everything besides ETFs?
It's about ETFs. I just tried to string along the most number of letters that wouldn't make sense to anybody. All right. Question number 1. In what year was the first exchange-traded fund introduced in the United States? Zane.
1990.
Okay. Everybody gets one guess on this. We don't get multiple guesses. So, Liam.
1985.
Okay. Zach.
I don't know. 1801.
Zane gets it. 1993 is the correct answer. Question number, yeah, I forgot to mention, Liam, if it's a date or a number question, it's closest gets it.
Got it.
Yeah.
Without going over or closest?
Nope, it is not Price is Right rules. Those
Okay.
rules are stupid.
I agree.
Which financial institution is credited with creating the first ETF? I think that was Zane.
Vanguard.
Incorrect. Zach.
Wells Fargo.
No. Liam.
Got nothing.
All right, back open. Zach.
Chase.
No.
Oh,
Liam.
Northwestern Mutual.
No. Zane.
State Street.
State Street Global Advisors is correct. Bravo.
I was about to go way back and guess East British Trading Company.
The British East India Company.
All right. Question number 3. Oh, wait. Brian has something to say about the Price is Right rules. He says, Price is Right rules are only stupid until you see someone win by bidding $1 beneath someone else.
Mhm.
Fair enough. Question number 3. The first ETFs were often referred to as SPDRs. What does SPDR stand for?
Oh man, this is hard.
It's not as hard as you think. At least half of it. Liam.
I'm gonna shoot my shot here. Special preliminary dividend rate.
Incorrect. I like the guess though. That's fantastic. I'll give y'all a hint after everybody answers once.
Can't even come up with one. I have no idea.
Zane.
I think it is something to do with State Street, where it's like it's something. It's like State Street Portfolio Research. No, that State Street Portfolio Dividend Research. It's something like that, but I can't get it exactly.
I don't think anybody's gonna get this, even if I give a hint. So I'm just gonna move on. The answer
Or
is
maybe it has the word
Standard
depository.
& Poor's depository receipts. All right.
Zane was almost there.
Oh, he wasn't gonna get it. Which country introduced the first ETF outside of the United States? Zach.
The United Kingdom.
No. Liam.
Switzerland.
No. Zane.
Germany.
No. Okay, here's a hint. It's in the Americas. Zane.
Canada.
Canada is correct. I tried to make it a little harder by saying the Americas, but everyone knew it was going to be Canada after as soon as.
Oh, I was going to guess Brazil.
Oh yeah, that would have been a good one too.
Finance is my area of expertise, so it would be embarrassing if I wasn't doing well in this category.
Fair enough. What was the first commodity that was granted an ETF? Zane.
Gold.
Yep. That is correct. All right. Well, sadly, after 2 rounds, Zane has secured his victory. 13 points. Liam has 3. Zach has 1. And the audience has 0. Sorry, audience. But we're going to go through the seagulls anyway, because these are interesting. First question. Seagulls are often seen hovering in the wind without flapping their wings. What is the term for this behavior? Zane.
Gliding.
No. Zach.
Gliding. That's what I was going to say.
Liam.
Soaring.
No. I'll
That's
give you a
very
hint.
inspirational.
I'll give you a hint. Humans do this as an activity. Zach.
Well, drafting.
No, I like that though. That's a
No.
good guess.
Okay.
Zane.
Hang gliding.
No. Liam, it's to you, and then no one gets it.
Sailing.
No.
I was thinking that too.
All right. The answer is kiting.
Is flying
I
a
like
kite
how-
called kiting? I've never heard somebody say, I'm going to go kite as a verb.
Whatever. Humans do it. Humans
No,
go.
humans fly
a
kites.
kite.
Humans fly kites. Humans do not kite.
Whatever, Zane.
They kite checks. I like how I tend to compliment people on their wrong answers that I like too. Like, yeah, man, I thought it was sailing.
Appreciate it.
All right. What is the term for the group behavior in which seagulls collectively scavenge for food, often seen near fishing boats or coastal areas? Zach.
Flocking.
No, that's a good guess though. Zane.
Going to Arby's.
Incorrect. Liam, you got a guess? I'll give a hint after the guess.
Ambushing.
No, I don't mind that though. The hint would be it's a type of organized crime. Zach.
Mobbing.
Mobbing is correct.
Oh,
Bravo.
Nice.
Guessing
Nice.
skills.
Joe says schlunking.
Schlonking.
All right. Final question. In what unique way do some seagull species use tools when hunting for food? Zane.
They pick up stones and then drop them on the heads of prey.
Incorrect. Zach.
They drop things that need to be cracked in the road for cars to run over.
I'm going to give it to you.
Okay.
They drop hard-shelled prey
Okay.
onto hard surfaces from the air.
That's kind of a mix between our answers, honestly.
Thanks for playing. Let's see. Hang on. I got to go over here and click this stupid thing again. So dumb. So dumb. All right. Zane wins again. No surprise to anyone. Give me 1 second. Y'all chat amongst yourselves for 1 second. I got to restart our Instagram feed.
It's hard
Cool
to chat with no
background you got
topic.
there, Zach.
Yeah, thank you. It's Mid Journey.
That's my favorite subreddit.
Yeah.
It's getting incredible, the images, like especially of people now. Like I cannot tell what's a picture now and what's AI, and that's
Do you mess
scary.
with it at all?
I've done a little bit, but like from the websites at least that I've perused a little bit, to get anything really good, you have to either work really hard or pay money, and I'm not willing to do those things. But
Yeah.
I definitely appreciate other people's work.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool. I'm subscribed to it, so I guess I pay money, and then I also do work really hard to like. But it's fun. You're just messing with it, trying out different things. It helps if you have something to like contribute to. Like I'll make random Twitter posts for the party or like for this podcast or whatever. If I had no reason to create anything, maybe I wouldn't use it as much. But it's cool. What do you think about like AI in general and like how all that's playing out?
I think AI is awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, definitely like robots are going to take over the world. And I'm definitely pro, like, okay, let's be nice to the robots. And just hope that, that we can be spared. Oh man, somebody said something funny, and I hope that I can recount it properly. Because they were talking about, how like Midjourney and all this stuff, and like how AI is creating art now. And the idea used to be like we build these robots so that we don't have to do any of the grunt work anymore. And so we can have time to, pursue our hobbies and create beautiful art and all this stuff. But now the robots are the ones creating the beautiful art, and we're the ones doing the, factory Amazon jobs. And,
Right.
so it's like, what is this world that we've come to?
Yeah, that's a great point. There's also a good, I think it was in the show 1883, talking about something similar, which I've also heard is a fantastic show. I didn't really care that much for Yellowstone because it just seemed like a lot of senseless violence, but I've heard 1883 is like a masterpiece, so I'm interested in checking that out. All right, y'all, let's see. Grumpy has something to say. Dinner with Spike is going to be great. If you haven't signed up, do it now. That is correct. I believe it's that first night of convention on the 26th. There's going to be a dinner with Spike Cohen, $50. It's a barbecue dinner at the venue where we're having convention. So if you want to get tickets to that, get them now before they're sold out. And then Zach disappears. All right. So we do have our third topic of the night is this just ridiculous story that we're just going to run through quickly because we're just
You say ridiculous story as if our stock and trade is not ridiculous.
Look, this is a super serious show that everybody takes super seriously. All right. So when was this? I don't know. Sometime this past week, January 4th. So I guess it was the night that we were broadcasting last week. There was like the world's biggest response. Look at all these cops. I mean, it is a crazy reaction to what was actually happening. But the speculation and what people were saying was that there were reports of 8 to 10 foot tall shadow men walking around the mall. Stupid. There's even here. Let me. There's even video where people are trying to prove that. No, that's not the right one. Sorry, y'all. I don't have the right order here. Where people are trying to prove that right there, they're saying that thing is a giant 10-foot tall shadow alien person which I don't know if you can see that. There you go. It's a little bigger. That. People are saying that that's an alien of some sort, another being from another dimension or something. Turns out what was happening was these idiot children. Here, we'll just play it.
Beating up a man in downtown Miami. Tonight, they're facing several charges for this attack and for the panic caused at Bayside Marketplace last night.
No, that wasn't actually the correct one. Hang on. There's another one. Here we go. This is the one.
The reason this whole brawl started was after a group of teenagers started lighting off fireworks in Bayside Marketplace. Now, this scared many people half to death. It sent people running, and it was after that that a lot of these teenagers began throwing punches. Fireworks and fights, sending crowds running at Bayside Marketplace New Year's Day. The chaos causing a citywide emergency call. Police parked up and down Biscayne Boulevard, even closing the road between 2nd and 4th Street for about...
Yeah, so that's all it was, is literally people setting off things that sound like artillery shells, which I would think would call for a pretty massive response from police. Yeah. People are still trying to push. I mean, I like conspiracy theories, but people are still trying to push some type of conspiracy theory with this, which I think is idiotic. You literally have video of these moron children hitting each other.
Yeah, I love conspiracy theories, but usually when there's some substance there and it gets your mind like wondering and thinking, those are the best ones. And there's really nothing here. Like,
yeah,
I was listening to other podcasts talk about this, like conspiracy podcasts and paranormal. And they just have a bunch of people who weren't there come on and talk about what they think might have happened. Like, it's the most boring content you can imagine. And I've been places before, like when I was a teenager, 20s or something, I was in downtown or North Shore, Chattanooga, watching fireworks, and some kids started shooting fireworks in the crowd. And the cops came en masse, like you were seeing there, and cleared everybody out.
Yeah.
So that is a ridiculous police response. I get it, but it's not unusual for them to do that.
Yeah. I mean, they're literally firing off things that sound like rockets and stuff. Like it's dumb to think.
And you know, they're getting calls saying someone's shooting, somebody's, you know, whatever. People are getting it wrong, and they're still going in there to check it out.
100%. 100%. Yeah. Yeah. We were
my favorite way of trying to dispute stuff like this is just taking it on its own terms, where if you truly believe that 8 to 10 foot tall shadow men existed, you think that they would just show up at a random mall in Miami?
Dude, Zane,
that's where the portal was open,
and just start walking around.
I legitimately heard people try to give explanations for that, and it's ridiculous. They were saying that if you take the coordinates of South Beach, Miami, or wherever this was, and you type it in, like if you would have transfixed some coordinates, you were supposed to go to not Australia, Antarctica, where, you know, obviously the portal to inner Earth is, and they just screwed up putting that into their computer and ended up in Miami. And people were seriously floating this. And I'm like, we're just making crap up at this point. Like, I know a lot of this is made up and it's just fun, but at least make it believable, or like entertain in a somewhat believable way, rather than just be like, well, they meant to go to the inner Earth.
These are the same people that are the same reasoning behind flat Earth. It's just like you delude yourself into thinking this is real. Show me one video, Joe.
That's what we're asking for, honestly. Like,
I just want one video.
I want to believe. I really do. But I want to I want to see it and believe, not just hear some people be like, it was Nephilim. I know it.
So where do y'all think, you know, in a world where 8 to 10 foot tall shadow beings really do exist, if they're not going to shop at the Miami malls, where do they go?
That's a great question.
Into your dreams, honestly.
Oh yeah, like, somebody probably
or if you do
from their dream. Yeah.
What is it? The one where if you do too much, not Robitussin, but like
The
Benadryl, I
DMT.
think it is.
Dayquil, whatever.
No,
Right.
not even something that crazy, Zane. But like, yeah, if you do DMT, you're gonna see whatever. But like the just regular Benadryl, if you apparently do a ton of it, and this was a TikTok challenge apparently years ago, and kids
The
were getting
Benadryl challenge.
yeah, and they would see Hat Man, who was supposed to be like a shadow creature that stood in the corner of your room with a wide brim hat on, and you would look at him and maybe see him for like a second, he would disappear. And people were taking shitloads of Benadryl to try to recreate that. And it's supposed to be like a sleep paralysis thing. Like you don't even need to be on drugs. If you have sleep paralysis, you would see Hat Man. And I do believe that people see the same stuff a lot. Like if you do DMT, you see machine elves, and if you do Benadryl, maybe you see this shadow person. But honestly, it's probably just because our brains are wired the same way. So
yeah, or that image is already in your head, and so when you
Yeah.
actually do start tripping, that's what you picture. Like,
Yeah,
it's just not.
It's just a suggestibility thing where when people are telling you expect to see Hat Man, that's what you're gonna see.
Yeah, exactly. But I can't show every single comment. We're in the middle of conversations. Not my
This
fault.
does suggest to me that we're at least getting a quantity of comments where you can't put everyone on the screen, which I guess means that we have a decent number of listeners.
Grumpy says Antarctica. That's why we're not allowed to go there. There are many, many suspicious things around Antarctica, I will say. But I don't think 10-foot tall shadow men showing up in Florida has anything to do with Antarctica. Sorry, Grumpy.
wish it did though.
Yeah, I would love.
I wish it was all true.
Yeah, I just want some type of proof. Like I'm even a doubter of just aliens in general. Like just show me some type of proof. It's all hearsay or it's all just crappy footage of some weird looking light in the sky. So just give me something real and then I'll start to believe. I don't know.
I guess in the defense of the weird looking light in the sky, nothing ever looks as good on camera. So like if you do see something in person and you get it out your phone, it then looks like it's a million miles away.
Not if I'm the one shooting it.
Well, we can't all go to art school.
But some people
prepare
have
for our UFOs.
I guarantee you somebody out there who knows how to operate a camera has seen what they think is a UFO and gotten crappy footage of it because it's not a freaking UFO.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, I've told you before, I don't know if I've ever said it on air, but it's like I've seen something that I thought was a UFO, a UAP. I don't know how to describe it, but I've seen it twice where it was like a blue plasma colored orb in the sky. And it kind of looked like the same color that's in my background here, where it's like the lights on the computer screens are like that color blue.
Yeah.
And like I saw it floating and then I look at it for a split second and then it shoots over the horizon. Both times. One of them was in Atlanta and the other was in Chickamauga.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know if it's an
Very different
alien.
places.
I don't know if it's interdimensional. I don't know if it was some thing that Lockheed Martin's testing or whatever. I have no idea. But there's zero chance I would have been able to get that on camera at the time. And I've even seen been hiking and seen like cool maneuvers from planes and stuff that are, whatever. I'm hiking on the side of a mountain and I see a plane and something happens so fast I cannot get out my camera and take a picture of it.
Yeah, fair.
So
fair.
I don't know.
Joe asks, do you guys think aliens have visited Earth?
No.
Well, it seems like what people like Tucker right now are, I don't want to say pushing because I don't think he's pushing it. He's just saying what he thinks. He's saying they live here.
Yeah.
I think is what he's saying is that they live here, whether it's under the ocean or, on a different wavelength, whatever that means.
Yeah. I mean,
they don't necessarily have to come from, a
fourth dimensional being. Somebody explained it super well. They drew basically if you were to draw a human being on a chalkboard or like a creation on a chalkboard and box them in, well, that creation can only stay inside that box. But you, as a three-dimensional being, can reach into that box and grab them or touch them or manipulate them or whatever.
See them at all times.
And so, I'd be more inclined to believe that there are fourth dimensional beings or some type of wormhole, like time travel kind of thing, more so than an alien.
Yep. I have a very hard time understanding any of that because the physics and all
Just
that
go watch
does not
Interstellar,
make
man.
sense to me. But yeah, that's what I was about to say. Interstellar, I have heard, actually did a pretty decent job at getting close
Have you
to
not
what
seen it?
people I've seen it, but I'm just saying that people think it actually looks like decently close to what people theorize the fourth dimension would really look like.
Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah,
Mitchell
I've
Johnson
spent
just says jellyfish. Those the aliens.
Yeah.
I've spent more time
Terrible.
than I care to admit trying to visualize 4 dimensions, and I'm never able to do it. I did read a book a couple of years ago called Flatland, which essentially is a narrative example of the analogy, Jake, that you just made, where it's the story of a square that gets lifted out of his 2-dimensional world and sees 3 dimensions. And then he goes back to his 2-dimensional world, and everybody thinks he's crazy for talking about a 3rd dimension.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So Zane has definitely not done enough DMT to access the the 4th dimension, I'm afraid.
Oh man. All right, y'all. Well, we've blown through our first 3 topics of the night. I've got a bunch of other tabs lined up. The first being our favorite man, Javier Milei, down in Argentina. Argentina has implemented single-day voting, handmade ballot boxes, paper ballots, and photo ID required. What are y'all's thoughts on that? For those who might still believe in democracy.
Oh well,
Sounds
I'll
pretty
recuse
racist.
myself then.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of stuff that guy has done in it's been like a month is wild. I mean, it's crazy. And I don't understand why there's resistance to that exact thing, to the single day of voting, ballot boxes, paper ballots, and photo ID. Like I don't understand at all why so many people get up in arms about those 4 things.
I get, on one hand, there's people who argue like we should just make voting as easy as possible. Like you should be able to fall out of bed and vote on accident that day. Like it should be that easy. But a lot of the progressive or like left arguments really don't add up. And it comes down to like, you just want this because you know it's better for you somehow. Like you've made that determination. And now you're going to push it by saying that like it's racist if you don't do it, or you're discriminating against a certain group if it's not, 7 days worth of voting, or if you have to have an ID.
Right.
And then there's that great video. What's that guy? Crap, I forgot his name, but he goes around asking people if they know where the DMV is and if they know how to get an ID. It's like, yeah, sure. Obviously I do. And then they ask college students if they think it's racist or, or if black people can't get an ID. And they're like, oh yeah, of course they don't know how. Like it's a burden for them. So I think most of it is made up to suit whatever they've predetermined is better for them.
Yeah, I mean, think about all the things that you need to have an ID to do, like buy alcohol, literally drive
to the ballot box.
But I think for a lot of people, whenever they hear anything related to election integrity, like paper ballots or hand count or whatever, that it's not even that they think about it. It's just that they immediately hear, oh, you're a crazy Republican because you're a conspiracy theorist and you think that our democracy isn't 100% pure and you're probably racist. Like they probably aren't even consciously thinking about reasons why we shouldn't have paper ballots. They just hear the phrase paper ballots and unconsciously make all these unsavory connections and toss it out before they even understand what a paper ballot is.
Yeah, and Elizabeth said because that's what the news told them to think. 100%. Yeah, it is interesting. Like the idea of making voting as easy as possible sounds good on the surface.
No, it doesn't.
To a lot of people, it sounds good on the surface.
You're not a surface thinker, Zane.
Let's make it as easy as possible.
Those people
so people
shouldn't
can
vote.
Yeah,
that was going to be the yes, 100%. Yes, it is. You should have to put in effort to make your vote heard, your voice heard. You should have to put in some type of effort in order to determine how other people live their lives, or at least have a say in how other people live their lives. The idea that, yeah, you should just be able to roll out of bed and slap the vote button is idiotic and counter to a productive and healthy relationship with everybody around you. It is, yeah, I think it's denigrating to society to be like, let's make it as easy as is humanly possible. Let's mail everybody their ballots, even if there was zero election integrity. I mean, if there was zero election fraud, I think it would be detrimental to society to send out mail-in voting.
Yeah, at the base level, what voting is, if you are commanding somebody to take up arms to enforce what you want. You have an idea and you think, you know what we should do? We should force everybody to also adopt that idea. And if you're going to do that, you know, maybe you should have to know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Joe says, effort is easier the more wealthy you are.
Like if there's barriers in the way of voting, those are always going to be easier to get past for wealthy people, I think is what he's saying.
Yeah, I mean, that's a valid criticism, and this is ultimately why I don't think that states are valid at all, because if you restrict voting to people that are like at the top, then you kind of end up with an aristocracy where they can just take advantage of people that don't know any better. And so a restricted voting republic is not a good solution either, which is why I'm not a Republican. I'm an anarchist.
There you go.
But I think that what's even worse than that is mass democracy, where not only do the people at the top get to do the plundering, everybody is plundering everybody all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just don't think that there are that many, like those four things that were listed are not obstacles. The only semi-difficult one is getting an ID. Like that's the all the others. And, if you make voting day a day like a national holiday, then everybody gets off work and you don't have to worry about missing your job or missing work or not being able to go to vote. So like there are no impediments to being able to vote in that regard other than just get a freaking ID. And that's
not
like
everybody can
$20.
take. Yeah. I guess the argument to that, not everybody can take a day off work. Uber drivers don't get national holidays. You know, if you're just hustling, selling things and working a million different jobs, maybe you can't make it to vote. But, you know, I don't know. Like there's always going to be edge cases. And that's not my argument. That's just the argument I think people will make.
Well, if you're an Uber driver, you can literally take 5 minutes and go vote. That's all it takes. I mean, unless you're in LA, then it might take a little bit longer, but it does not take very long to go vote.
Well, presumably on voting day, you would be driving some people to go vote, right? And then
there.
You can take a pit stop.
Maybe that was just a bad example.
You're gonna have to go pee at some point in the day, right? So you take it, you know, stop
at your precinct.
Go, yeah.
That reminds me, Uber and Lyft now are offering free Ubers to the poll on election day, so you don't even have that excuse. Although I guess that explains how you might show up at the polling place with no ID if you didn't drive yourself there.
Yeah. Elizabeth said she's for eliminating IDs for voting if they eliminate it for everything else too. Yes, I agree with that 100%. Yes.
Yeah. These conversations are always weird between us because it's like, you know, I think ideally we wouldn't have voting. We would just have default liberty and we don't need to vote on how to control people's lives. In the same way, it's like ideally we wouldn't have government IDs. We'd probably have some way of proving who we are, but it wouldn't be, you know, some government enforced solution.
Right.
And the ID thing is getting a little weird. Like I had to to take over the responsibility of paying the power bill in my apartment from a departed roommate. And for some reason, I had to send Georgia Power a picture of me with my ID next to me to prove that I'm myself to the power company. I'm like, well, do you want my money or not? I don't understand.
Yeah.
That's a weird one.
I've never understood all the hoops to jump through to pay a bill. I'm like, do you want it or do you not want it? And if somebody else paid it for me, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, like, are you gonna really complain so much about that? Okay.
Yeah, that's a weird one. I don't care for that so much.
I don't know. I can speak from my experience as being state party secretary for the past year, how important it is that we're able to tell people apart from each other, because it is surprisingly difficult to do sometimes. So obviously I'm against the government doing anything, but when we're talking about companies, I'm sure that some companies have ridiculous ID requirements too, but I can understand where they're coming from.
Gotcha.
Well, I think the problem there is a lot of times companies will just default to whatever the government is doing and what they're enforcing.
Exactly it. Yes.
When if they didn't do that to begin with, we'd probably have better solutions from the free market, like less intrusive or less biased ways of proving that we are who we say we are, or, like some cryptographic hash or something. But, when it's already provided by the government, it could be a terrible solution. And a lot of companies are still just going to use it because it's basically free.
Yeah, I mean, social security numbers are the perfect example of something like this, where the reason why every company wants your social security number is because it's an ID that only you have, so they know if they get that from you, then they'll never run the risk of confusing you with somebody else. And everybody already has one because the government makes everyone have one, so it's just easy. Right. But if you really think about what would make a good unique ID that would be hard for other people to guess, social security numbers are really bad because they were not really designed to be unique IDs used for everything. They were meant to be used for one specific purpose, and if they're assigned using a very predictable pattern. Like people that are born in sequence at the same hospital receive social security numbers that are roughly in numerical order. And so it would be very easy to come up with a social security number that is somebody's actual social security number just by guessing it. And which is not what you want if you want identities to be hard to steal. But because we have the government who's already assigned all these IDs, it stifled the free market from being able to come up with other better ways of assigning people unique IDs.
I like it. Yeah. I mean, just think about what a Bitcoin wallet, what the address for that thing is. That's a unique ID. That is a 26 it's a massively long character number.
Yeah. They're essentially unguessable. Like you could have the best supercomputer in the world and it would still take you hundreds of thousands of years or something to run a guessing program to guess that, which that would be very annoying if my cable company needed me to write down an entire wallet address. But
but you could just put it in QR code form,
I hate QR codes, honestly.
Why? QR codes are so convenient.
I don't like them. I don't know why.
You can make them pretty, though. You can make them look good.
That's true.
Yeah, they have some cool apps for stuff like that. Okay, cool. All right. Well, I've got where was that? Here we go. We got our favorite alien to talk about.
Talk about an actual alien.
Klaus Schwab. Here we go.
You have this anti-system movement. What we are seeing is a revolution against the system.
Viva la
so
revolution.
Fixing the present system is not enough. Now there is, of course, a anti-system, which is called libertarianism, which means to tear down everything which creates some kind of influence of government into private lives. It's dismantling the system. You have this.
Gosh, he just makes it sound so good.
Is that our newest commercial? I mean, that was great.
That was fantastic.
No notes.
That was fantastic. I should honestly try to cut that into a great libertarian commercial. That'd be awesome. Yeah. I think what he's describing is actually anarchy, is anarchists. I don't think he's actually describing libertarianism. It's not because
I think he's being a little unfair because like libertarians and I guess anarcho-capitalists don't want to tear down everything.
Correct.
But I guess we do want to tear down, the government influence into private life, like he said. That's fair.
Yeah.
But we're not like, Molotov throwing anarchists that just want to, destroy the patriarchy and capitalism or whatever it is that day.
His sentence was a little hard to parse, but it sounded like he was. I thought at first he was accusing us of wanting to tear down everything, but I think what he eventually got around to saying was tearing down everything that leads to government interference in private lives, which I'm 100% on board with. Obviously, I'm not on board with tearing down everything. I only want to tear down one thing and leave everything else even more prosperous than it already was. In fact, I would say that the government is really the institution responsible for tearing down all of the other institutions that make society as a whole great and stable and prosperous.
Yeah, I just think it's so funny how, like, I don't understand the person who's gonna agree with him the way he made that sound. Like, who's gonna be there and be like, yes, like these libertarians are the problem. They're trying to get rid of this government interference in my personal life. Like,
I mean, he lives in the upside down. Like what he says that sounds great to us is shocking and horrifying to his crowd. So
it's just like,
those people exist, unfortunately.
Do they though? The way he put it, I'm saying specifically the words he was using. If you talk to any Democrat who says something, who like thinks about it in those terms, exactly what he just said, I feel like they're going to disagree with his statements there too. Like,
maybe
I think
you
would
he's
be
probably
surprised
talking
at
to
the number
Europeans.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying he's probably not talking to people that we would have access to. Like if we find a Democrat on the street, it's not the type of person that he's addressing there.
Yeah.
We're not supposed to see this, basically.
Right.
I also think that thank you very much, Elizabeth. But I would also say that unfortunately there's a growing number of Democrats that probably would not really have a problem with this statement right there, and would say that if you're overly concerned with interference into your private life, you're probably a conspiracy theorist. And they would probably say, as long as you're not interfering with our ability to do gay stuff, then interfere with everything else, and that's fine.
And another thing they would say is, well, if you're not doing anything wrong, why does it matter? So yeah, okay, fine, whatever. I hate those people. Gosh, that drives me nuts. Actually, one thing I did want to talk about, this came up online on Twitter over the past couple of days, and I actually kind of did a podcast about it with the Free Georgia podcast on Tuesday. I forget who posted this, but it was a non-libertarian who wanted to learn more about libertarianism, but got so much hate from libertarians that she had to shut off comments. What are y'all's thoughts on how we should be sending out our message and like how to go about getting converts?
Well, probably not like that.
I mean, obviously. But because what I said in the Free Georgia podcast the other day was like, I've never heard of anybody getting converted or getting their mind changed by someone who's berating them. And I don't understand why it's such a big libertarian world thing to shit post all the time, because that's not how, like, I don't understand how that's going to get us any favors with anybody or any goodwill from anybody. I I don't know. I guess my primary question is like, what are your all's thoughts on like shit posting in that whole realm of Twitter and the internet?
So I will never criticize anyone who's in the process of questioning or repenting of their previous errors. If you are moving in the right direction, that is absolutely the wrong time to start making fun of you. That's the time to embrace you with open arms. If you are, remaining in your blatant error of being a war hawk or being a statist, if you're going to use shit posting, that's who you should target it at. People who are just so far gone that it's not even possible to convince them. The only thing that you can do is convince everybody of the absurdity of their arguments and hope to win converts by displaying their absurdity to observers. You should not ever shitpost somebody that you might convince, because that's not going to work.
I definitely agree. And I think it even better if those people are like politicians or journalists or like not just a regular person off the street. But
yes, what I concluded was if it's somebody in politics or somebody in a pretty big position of power or anybody in the media who's acting like an authority on whatever topic they're talking about. Okay. It's just interesting to get other people's opinions on this because I don't really care for shit posting all that much.
This situation reminds me just a little bit of a few years ago. It was Mark Duplass and Ben Shapiro. Do you guys remember this?
No.
I don't remember all the details, but basically Mark Duplass, who's an actor, he's been in a bunch of stuff if people don't know. But I guess he paid Ben Shapiro a visit because he was working on some type of movie or show that had to do with gun control and gun rights and stuff. And so he said that basically he didn't know much about, the conservative, in favor of the Second Amendment opinion and that side of things. And he basically, just wanted to learn more about that. And I guess, some of his like rinky-dink Hollywood friends found out that, he was visiting the enemy, right? And so then he was basically forced to come out and repent and, apologize to everyone that he even had a conversation with a man who was conservative and basically had to just like run away with his tail between his legs because the community, gave him so much crap. So now to hear a similar situation, but libertarians are on the side of giving people crap for having an open mind. That really sucks to hear because, the whole I don't know if people haven't noticed, but there's not a lot of yellow states on electoral maps these days. So we need to try to be open to anybody, even if we know they're not gonna change their mind. I would say if we should be happy to discuss with people if they're willing to listen at all, because then maybe other people hear the conversations and the dialogue just starts to spread around, and more of this needs to happen. And of course, you don't want to discourage anybody from trying to learn.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%.
You never want to respond to somebody talking to you in good faith with a shit post, because that will ruin everything. Obviously, if you're responding to a politician or a corpo journalist or whatever, you can pretty much always assume most of the time that they're acting in bad faith and they're not really listening to you or interested in having a conversation with you. But especially if we're talking about regular people that are not coming off with extremely sharp elbows, it's worth it to resist the impulse to do that. And it can be, I'm sure it's probably more difficult for libertarians than other people because we live in such a small community of people who are all highly ideological. very few people are born libertarian. You have to have gone on an intellectual journey to end up here, and that can definitely make you less tolerant of people that you think have put in less effort than you. But we have to understand that not everybody is as far along the path, and we've got to do what we can to help people if we think that we can reach them at all.
I'll defend shit posting a little bit though, because like I think most of the time people are just doing it amongst themselves, and it's pretty harmless. Like I'm just like shit posting to Zane or Liam or whatever. I'm just sending them to my friends, and that's fine. That's cool. Even like dragging a journalist or politician, that is fun. I'm a huge fan of that. All that stuff, like that's cool. I remember what Jake is bringing up here, and the lady did have a little bit of like sharp elbows, like, hey, I heard libertarians suck ass. Like, why should I ever like them? And like, I get how some people would be very turned off and just like start attacking. But there were also very reasonable people who chimed in and maybe changed their mind a little bit. And that might be the route to take with random nobody, random person who could be part of your movement tomorrow and isn't part of the problem necessarily. But, I'm not against shit posting in general. I think it's fun.
The other thing too is, oh, sorry.
No, you're good. I'm done.
You kind of have to realize what platform you're on. Like if you are highly offended by shit posts, I'm not judging you for having that opinion, but maybe don't go on Twitter. Because if you go on Twitter, what do you expect to find?
Yeah, it's really the entire internet. It's like you kind of have to expect some level of like being or mean people or shit posters or trolls or whatever, no matter where you are. Like I work in tech, and I'll every now and then like look up a question. I don't know the answer, and there'll be 15 replies saying how dumb you are if you don't know the answer, and like one helpful person. And that's just the nature of the internet in a lot of ways.
Yeah, well, and if that the girl we were just talking about, like if she goes in and she does have sharp elbows and says, well, I heard libertarians are stupid and they suck, well then I think it's our job to not suck and to just show her and show the community just by our actions, like, no, actually, like, I think we have good arguments, and I think we're obviously extremely peaceful, and we want to encourage the notion of living and let live.
Yeah. I'm curious, Liam, like, did you have any special strategy for communicating when president of, did you say Yao at UGA? Yeah. Did you have anything that like you leaned on more strongly, like how I'm going to get the word out and like what our, tone is going to be or any of that sort of stuff?
I think our strategy was more focused on things that topics where we align more with like the liberal and the Democrat way of thinking, more so than the topics where we align more conservative, just because of like, where we are. We're on a college campus, right? So we expect, even though it's like in the South, like we still expect, more than half of those people to identify as Democrats or as liberals. And so we tried to raise more of those issues when we would, do some tabling, try to convert new people. But also, like, with that said, a lot of times we would have more frequent like interactions and discussions with some of like the conservative clubs. Like, we had some interaction with like Turning Point, for example. But we tried to make it some of this stuff a game, and like we had a giant free speech ball at one point. Everybody write whatever you want on this gigantic 7-foot tall beach ball.
Yeah, and that's so easy too. Like, if you're on college campus, you should be doing that because buy a giant ball on Amazon, buy like 10 Sharpies, and you got an event.
Yep.
Speaking of us interacting with Turning Point, it was a real Libertarian achievement unlocked moment for me one time that I went to a Turning Point meeting where the theme of the meeting was, is taxation theft? So it's like, all right, well, I definitely have to go to that. And so I was there when it was my turn to talk. I said my piece about how it obviously is theft. And then one of the other people there were like, well, if you really believe that, how about you move to Somalia? And I was like, I thought this was just a libertarian meme about what people say to us. I didn't know that people actually said this.
Oh, yeah.
So,
the roads thing is true, too.
So there is a balance to be struck here, because if your messaging is too soft, then people might be like, well, I'm sure you're a good guy, but if you're 10% different from the Democrats and Republicans, then I'm not going to vote for you because you're not truly offering a compelling enough vision for me to abandon a party that actually wins some of the time for a party that never wins hardly at all. I mean, we do win local elections about one third of the time, so not to disparage our local election efforts because they're good, but you know what I mean. We don't win very much.
Yeah. You just can't be like, I'm Mitt Romney, but 5% better. I'm like, well, but he has a chance of winning and you don't. So I'm just going to keep going with him and I'm going to forget that you ever talked to me.
Exactly. Speaking of shit posting, this is the best. This is one of my favorite things I saw on the internet this week was Joe Biden tweeted, "Let me be clear for those who don't seem to know, slavery was the cause of the Civil War." And then our very own Dave Benner, LP Tennessee, nemesis of neocons, did a whole just tweet thread storm on him, saying, then why did Lincoln declare over a year into it that his goal was not to either to save or to destroy slavery, and that if he could save the Union without freeing any slave or by freeing some and leaving others alone, he would do it? Then why did Lincoln support a constitutional amendment to make slavery permanent and irrevocable, offer it as a bargaining chip to end the war, and sanction the practice in Delaware, Maryland, Missouri, Kentucky throughout the war? And then it just keeps on going because Dave is a freaking historian and he's incredible at coming up with all these things. And then
we should have him back on about this.
And then Shane says, oh, look at you guys on the Muppet tweet team regurgitating government school propaganda. Good little teachers, pet. That's the kind of that's about the most amount of shit posting that I can get behind.
This isn't shit posting. This is quality history here.
Well, Shane's is mini shit posting.
Oh, Shane. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I approve of that too. But I was listening to an episode of the Dangerous History podcast by CJ Kilmer, if any of you have heard of that. And he made the interesting point that it's pretty clear to him that the reason that the South seceded was because they were afraid that the Union was going to ban slavery. But the reason that the Union invaded them was not to ban slavery.
Correct.
That's where I'm at. If you go and you read all the documents, all the reasons the states put out for why they succeeded, most of them mention slavery in like the first paragraph, if not the first sentence or two. But it does appear that Lincoln could give a crap and was doing it for other reasons.
Yes, 100%. That is exactly where I'm at too. Because I mean, I grew up in Texas, just learning about it was only about states' rights and nothing else, which isn't the whole truth. But neither is it was only about slavery. So,
well, that is something I think myself included we fall into sometimes. It's a little dangerous. Whereas, like, if the mainstream narrative is X, we're like, no, it's Y. You're completely wrong. But it's like, in this case, it's like, well, there's a kernel of truth. You have it a little wrong.
Yeah.
And there's nuance, but the libertarian impulse a lot of times is to completely reject it and substitute whatever is the opposite. And sometimes that's true. But in this case, I feel like slavery was highly important to a lot of the states who seceded. So,
what was the impetus for this tweet in the first place? Was Joe Biden told by one of his secretaries, hey, Joe, you're running low on internet points. We gotta fire something up here.
That was my question too. I think ever since Alex Garland's Civil War trailer came out, people have been talking about Civil War stuff.
I know the answer.
Oh, you do?
Has nothing to do with movies, unfortunately.
Oh.
So somebody just asked Nikki Haley, what was the Civil War about? I'm sure this is what they had planned, and they're laughing right now because she was like, oh, I don't know, there's a lot of reasons and this, that, and the other, and blah, blah, blah. And she did not say slavery at all. And that's the keyword they were looking for.
Yeah.
So when she didn't say it, they're like, gotcha. We're going to run with this. We're going to say she doesn't think it's about slavery. And by the way, we hate Nikki Haley. I'm not sad this is happening to her, but that's why Joe Biden's being smarmy online, or his intern.
You would think that of all people, Nikki Haley would get that question right because neocons all love Lincoln.
Yeah. You would think so, especially since she's like the one that they've picked. Yeah, that's wild. Yeah, that is kind of crazy that she did not get that question the way they want her to. So I don't really know. All right, y'all. We're to the funny stuff. I've got four funny videos lined up today. The first one's pretty dark, but play it anyway. It says sister who handles her mental health very well.
Long hair
sister who didn't.
Dick in
The second one was a gravestone for listeners.
Which, I mean, hilarious in one of the darkest ways I could imagine.
I mean, I really hope it's completely made up. Like, this is one of those stories you would hear from like a comedian, and you're like, that was hilarious, but I really hope you're lying.
Yes.
If that's her sister for real, then she's not handling it well.
Yeah, I really hope that it was just some random gravestone and they thought of doing a funny bit. Like that's what I really hope. Oh man. I don't know how many of y'all have seen this. This is a classic. But this is one of my favorite things.
Hey, you want to make a bit of money? You should do what I did. Get into farming. See this? I got this selling corn. It comes out of the fucking ground. I couldn't believe it. You see that? It's made of chicken. It's actually made of chicken. You kill it, you got free chicken. You can sell it to people. Or don't kill it. Fucking eggs come out of their arses. Fucking hell. You know, sheep, bit woolly. It's wool. Pull it off, sell it, fucking grows back again. You cannot lose. Unbelievable. It's only 5 in the morning and I'm right where I work. And while the other poor sod's struggling in on the tube, I'm going to go and get some milk out of a cow. Who's a jammy bastard.
That's a pretty good argument, actually. That's the original work from home is farming.
Right? Right? All right. Third one. No, just wait.
The dog has
no.
one.
Thomas, what are you doing? Thomas.
So this one reminds me of my granddad because he had false teeth, a Yorkie, and played guitar. So
that is so funny. That dog picked them up in the most perfect way.
Yeah.
All right, final one. This guy cracks me up. I see him all over Instagram all the time.
TVs and movies made me think were going to be commonplace, but they never really happen. Number one is food fights. I thought at this point in my life I would have hucked a plate of mashed potatoes at someone's face, but nay. In TV shows, it seems so fun. One kid stands up and yells, "Food fight," and everyone else gets the game plan. We're all in it together. Yes, it's a waste of food, and everyone involved is not thinking about the kid with the peanut allergy, but it does seem like a good time nonetheless. Next time I'm at Panera Bread, I'll try and get something going, but it seems like a high-risk, low-reward scenario. Number two, we have two fellas crossing the street holding a piece of glass. I don't know why this was so common. This happened a lot in cartoons and in movies for comedy. I don't know. I thought if I would ride my skateboard, sometimes I would come into that situation and I would have to handle it, but it never happened. Number three, I thought banana peels were going to be a lot more hazardous as I got older. Yes, they are oily and slippery, but I mean, goddamn, man, I've not seen one person in my whole ass life eat shit on a banana peel, and I've been kind of waiting for it. And finally, I thought I'd have a nemesis. Thought I'd have a mortal enemy at this point. I mean, I have people who I hate, and those people hate me, but that's more of a list of people I've had sex with, not villains. What happened to people whose whole life purpose was to foil your plans and undercut you at every turn, you know? I need dedication. I need someone who's going to stick through it to the end to make sure my life sucks. Like Doofenshmirtz. Things that TVs and movies...
Yeah, I can't believe he didn't cover quicksand. Like, I thought that was going to be a problem
quicksand,
everywhere.
That's a good one. Yeah, quicksand's a good one.
I actually do have a nemesis.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
I fell asleep at one of the bars here in my town. I was just very drunk and very tired, and it was a really busy night, but, you know, just sitting at a table and just happened to fall asleep. And so one of the guys working there, he was just a real dick about it. Like, I understand, you know, if the policy of the place is, you know, that I have to leave or whatever because I fell asleep, okay, fine. Except he shakes me awake and he's screaming at me and he's, you know, cursing me out and telling me I got to leave and all this stuff. And I'm, you know, very drunk and disoriented, and I just woke up and I tried to fight the guy, and luckily my friends held me back and escorted me out of that situation so I didn't make it, you know, really bad on myself. And then I go back to this bar a week later. Didn't really think anything of it. And the guy kicks me out again. And he's like, "Oh, you fell asleep here last time. You gotta go." I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" Luckily, I guess he kind of gave up on his effort because, you know, now I've been back since without problems, but he remains my nemesis. And
he's just laying in wait for you to lower your guard.
Well, I've always said, you know, if I see him outside the confines of his work, you know, we're gonna have ourselves like a good old fashioned duel.
I love it. That's great.
Zach, have a food fight. Were you coming to me?
What?
I was just gonna say I would love to have a food fight. Like, I've always wanted to do that.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
Zane, you got a nemesis?
I don't care if it's completely staged. I want someone to stand up, yell, food fight, and then let's go nuts.
Fair.
I think that can be arranged at the Spike Cohen dinner.
I'd be down with that. All right, y'all. Thank y'all so much for watching 2 hours of us talking about all this stuff. Liam, thank you so much for joining tonight, man. I really enjoyed it. It was awesome.
I did too. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Yeah, go get your tickets for Range Day with Spike Cohen, dinner with Spike Cohen, and the convention that's happening at the end of January 26th. Good night, Grumpy. 26th through the 28th, 26th for the Spike Cohen events, and the 27th and 28th for the convention. Yeah, make sure to tune in to Free Georgia Podcast on Monday nights. And I don't know, Zach, we got any other party business we need to address real quick?
I think you've covered it. I mean, get on our email list. A lot of information's going out right now about convention. We just put out a rebuttal to the state of the state that was given by Brian Kemp. So look for that in our email and on our socials. And yeah, just join up and, you know, get communication so that you can see all these things that are coming out.
Awesome. All right, y'all.
Grumpy says we need volunteers. An email will be going out about that too. So if you are interested in volunteering at the convention, get on our email list and look for that shortly.
When I'm not yawning, I'll end this podcast. All right, y'all. Thanks for tuning in. We really appreciate it. We'll see y'all next week at 8 p.m. Eastern. Peace.